Welcome into the Illinicast. I'm your host, Austin Berkland, alongside my co-host, Sonny Verma. Sonny, how are you tonight?
I'm doing wonderful, Austin. I'm finally looking forward to Illinois football again.
I know it's been a while since we've actually had something to be excited about. Probably since when? After the Toledo game when we were like, oh my gosh, the Casey Washington, Luke Altmaier throw and catch. Oh my gosh, we're ready to roll 10-2, 9-3. We are ready. We are rolling. And now we are back to being bowl hopeful, at least after the win against Maryland. And we have a Tanner Mordecai-less Wisconsin team to deal with on Saturday for homecoming in Champaign. So, what are your initial impressions on this game? How is your temperature going into Saturday?
Well, I've noticed the spread has changed just about the same. It's been about 2.5 all week long. The more I kind of deep dive into Wisconsin and their fans and their, the people talking about the Badgers, they seem to say that Tanner Mordecai wasn't exactly playing off the charts to begin with. And this young kid that they got from the South, he didn't show exactly too much last week against Iowa, but Iowa's also got a fantastic defense, so not a lot of quarterbacks show too much. So my initial excitement about having a backup quarterback in to play against, that isn't necessarily there anymore. But I think right now we're catching Wisconsin at a very good time. They were pretty much humiliated last week. We're kind of running a high. We're coming off a victory on the road. They have a loss at home. So for me, it's just I'm ready to go. I think now's the time to play them. And it being homecoming, we've had some pretty good success against Wisconsin the last couple of years. So it's just like, again, I got a smile on my face. I'm looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah, Braden Locke, he was 15 for 30 for 122 yards in Wisconsin's 15-6 loss whenever Tanner Mordecai left the game. So 50% passer, 122 yards, and obviously didn't score a touchdown against that vaunted Iowa defense. But I'm kind of looking forward to the matchup of the secondary against the likes of Shamir Dike, who has 15 catches for 272 yards and a touchdown. So I think the matchup is going to be, can this secondary lock down these wide receivers for Wisconsin in this new style Luke Fickell offense? If they can do that, it's going to be pretty hard for Braden Locke, and especially with Jerzon Newton staring you down as a quarterback. That's got to make your tempo just at least get a snap faster. And the more that we make Braden Locke think, the better it is for Illinois' chances on Saturday.
I think we need to make Locke beat us on Saturday. And I think, Aaron Henry is a lot smarter than I am. Brett Bielema is a lot smarter than I am. I think, hopefully we haven't really gotten an update on Keith Randolph on whether he's going to be back. I don't think he's game ready yet, but I guess we'll find out closer to kickoff. But if he's back, you don't let Allen and their running backs beat you this game. You want the quarterback. College quarterbacks, they're fickle. They panic, and this guy's going to be coming into Champaign homecoming weekend. Hopefully, we have a decent crowd there. Make him make passes. We have talent in that secondary. You're exactly right. They've got some really good receivers, but that's how I want to lose the game. I don't want to get onto this recap episode next week on Tuesday and talk about how Allen ran 200 yards over us. I wanted to, if we lose to their quarterback having a great game, so be it.
And I mean, I think with Illinois' defense, I mean, you're seeing a guy like Seth Coleman. He had a really great game against Maryland. So hopefully that kind of changes his mindset to where he can come out and just play with his natural instincts on Saturday instead of thinking too much. Because whenever a player starts to struggle, they start to think, and then where they start to think, they lose their instincts, and it makes the game that much faster for that player. So I hope Seth Coleman, the game is slowed down for him, and that can translate into great things for this Illinois defense as well.
Yeah, defense is getting better. I mean, if you take a look at our games, obviously the first couple of weeks our defensive numbers were kind of inflated because of how poorly we played. But up until then, we had a pretty decent game against Penn State. Purdue obviously ran away from us in the second half, but I was listening to a different podcast earlier today, and they were mentioning I think we were in the 30s or 40s when it comes to rushing yards allowed and passing yards allowed defensively since that Kansas game. So the talent is there, and while the numbers aren't really there, and the national perception is our defense is awful, I think they're growing as a team, and on a week by week basis, what we always credit our coaches for being good coaches. I think the coaching is taking into effect, and there's no better way to kind of showcase that on Saturday, because I think a victory on Saturday against Wisconsin really starts to shift the momentum and perception of Illinois football back to the positive. Right now people are just talking about they're the worst team in the Big Ten. Now they're going to be talking about the narrative. Hey, you know, was Sonny crazy 2 weeks ago when he talked about the possibility of competing for that Big Ten West championship again?
I mean, you look at a situation if Illinois beats Wisconsin, and I think recruiting momentum would start to shift once again. Maybe a guy like Caleb Pyfrom, who decommitted from Illinois, will start to think, you know what, maybe they aren't the train wreck that I initially anticipated after the losses to Nebraska and to Purdue. We got to remember that Pyfrom is a Nebraska native, and Nebraska kind of embarrassed Illinois. So I'm sure he got a lot of internal conversations to say, hey, or maybe you should rethink this Illinois thing. So maybe that swings back to say, hey, if Illinois makes two straight bowls, maybe on the difference between a bowl game and maybe a January 1st bowl game, even with the talent infusion coming in to the Big Ten and the likes of those West Coast teams. So I think this is a huge momentum shift game for not only this season, but of the program in general and the national perception of what Brett Bielema is building here in Champaign.
I mean, if you think about it, 2 weeks ago, if you told us that we would go into the bye week at 4-4, we would have jumped at that chance.
Yeah.
We really thought we were going into the season after that Nebraska loss 2-6 into the bye week. Then we'd have 2 weeks to just kind of dread the rest of the season. But if we go into that bye week 4-4, we have positive vibes. We've got two straight wins against two divisional foes. Like as you said, it can kind of turn the season around. We can have our coaches who traditionally during the bye weeks they go visit the schools, visit the local recruits. They're going in with their head up. They can talk to them. Hey, look, we started off slow, but we have a system in place, and you're seeing us get better every single day. You're seeing our players get better every single day. That's exactly what's going to happen to you the minute you step foot on campus. We're still in it to win the division championship. It's a huge potential momentum shift for the season compared to where we thought we would be 2 weeks ago.
I mean, you just look at Illinois last week against Maryland. They held firm on the turnover battle 1-1, and they won the penalty battle. That is something that Illinois has struggled mightily with this season, is just being the more disciplined football team. So against Wisconsin, if Illinois can hold serve on that, Illinois has a really, really great shot at winning this football game, because I think discipline is going to be about 75% of this battle, especially going up against a backup quarterback. So I got to look at this game and think that Illinois, I know they're not technically the favorites in Vegas, but I think they almost have to be a favorite by default because of all the transition that Wisconsin has had in such a short amount of time.
And speaking of that transition, hopefully we can utilize that secret weapon that we got over the offseason in Jim Leonard. And, hopefully he's got something that he's been game planning. There's some information he can give Brett, because if there's one game that he's probably focused a little extra on coming into the season, it is that Wisconsin game. And, the motivation is there for him. And, that you can relay that to the players. And do you think that's something like that's going to help?
I think so. I ultimately think it's going to be pretty much about the Jimmies and Joes, in all honesty, with how Isaiah Williams performs, with how a Caden Fegan performs on such a big stage. Like, there is a difference whenever you are the surprise guy, like Caden Fegan has been the past couple weeks. Now he's starting to rise up those scouting charts for the opposing team. They're going to start to see his tendencies. So I am kind of excited to see how Caden adjusts to the adjustment and how this offensive line adjusts to this adjustment that defenses are going to start preparing for this newfound run game of Illinois.
If you're Brett Bielema and Reggie Love is healthy, how do you divvy up who runs the ball how often?
I know you're going to have like a carry here and there for Aiden Lowry. I know you're going to have a carry here for another guy, like Isaiah Williams, maybe in the backfield. Um, but I really think it should be 60-40 or something along those lines to Caden Fegan. I think Reggie Love is a great running back, but I feel like you got to feed the hot hand right now, and that's definitely Caden, and especially in the Big Ten West. Like a physical runner like that, that's what wins you games in the Big Ten. That's what Illinois has been dominated by in previous years. So I think you got to ride this hot hand as much talented as Reggie Love is, and maybe use Reggie in the passing game a little bit just to get the ball in his hands that way. But in terms of carries up the middle, you got to go with Caden.
I think I agree with that. I like Reggie. I think he's a good running back, but watching his entire career, never have I seen him and be like, that's an outstanding running back who can be a workhorse for you. You kind of do get those vibes from Caden Fagan, and the fact that he is so young, I think I'd like to see like a 60-30 between Fagan and Love, and then 10% for, as you said, kind of the miscellaneous plays and Lawfrey. Um, right now, let Caden wear that defense down. From what I was looking at, the Wisconsin defensive line isn't that big. They seem a little bit more athletic, but I guess maybe we can talk about that as well. Like our offensive line physically is going to be bigger than their defensive line. And so I hope that our coaching staff has learned their lessons and that, just like we did against Maryland, that we don't drop that running game early. We continue to pound and ground and just basically have Caden weaken their defense. And, we have a game plan that worked last week and we need to stick to it this week.
Yeah, I really don't want to see Barry Lenny Jr. have Luke Altmaier do 5-step drops, look for Casey Washington or Pat Bryant, and I want him to get the ball out. I want them to be some 3-step drops, some misdirection, really showcase the versatility of some of the athleticism that you have in like Isaiah Williams. And then those plays to Casey Washington and Pat Bryant can open up later in the game, but you shouldn't start off with that. And I know part of that is staying disciplined, not getting behind the sticks, making sure that you're not getting holding penalties, making sure that there's no false starts that make you have 2nd and 13, stuff like that. I think if Illinois is able to be disciplined, then Barry Lunny can fully interject this run style, ground and pound, quick twitch passing offense that was really successful last year. And that's something that's been missing this season as well.
And it's frustrating because we kind of talked about it last week. Like the offensive talent is there on our team. We have, talent in that wide receiver room. We've seen our running backs, especially with Fagan jumping up last week. Like we have talent there. We have a good quarterback. It's just we've had issues with our offensive line coming into last week. And so we got a glimpse of what we are capable of being. And that team that played Saturday against Maryland is absolutely capable of winning out the rest of the games on our schedule. And so whether we continue to keep that game plan, I hope, Barry Lunny, it took Barry Lunny taking an emergency timeout essentially to finally just give the ball to 6'3", 250-pound bowling ball at the 1-yard line to score a touchdown. You know, as long as, the message has been gotten and we don't have to, second think, second, guess ourselves, I think we're there. And so Wisconsin, who we're playing this Saturday, they're kind of discombobulated. They're coming off a loss that, they were, I think, 9.5 point favorites coming into. So I listened to the Badger boys, who I think we're going to have on a little bit later today, and their their preview podcast was pretty somber, and it sounded like what we sounded like last week. And so we need to basically put our foots on their neck and really deflate them early so that their team morale exits real quick, and we can kind of just give the ball to Caden and milk that clock.
I mean, this is their Nebraska game. I mean, Illinois truly let Purdue beat them twice. Number one, with how they performed discipline wise in that first game against Purdue. And then the second guessing crept in between the coaching staff, the players, offense, defense. It really started to impact the way they think. I really think so. I know I'm not in the locker room. I know I'm not a psychology major, but this was a different team than what I even saw against Kansas. At least in Kansas, there was some fight. In this Nebraska game, there was a lot of give up, I feel like, in that game. But credit to the coaching staff, credit to the players, like I said last week's show, that this team fought in this regular season to get back to a point where they can make a bowl game. Wisconsin, are they going to let Iowa beat them twice with a new quarterback, with a offense that was only able to score 6 points against Iowa, and a defense that allowed Iowa to score 15 points, which is kind of a high number for that Iowa Hawkeyes offense and their backup quarterback? So Illinois should come in with all the momentum in the world, should come in with the confidence to beat a Wisconsin team that's kind of licking their wounds and that Luke Fickle kind of has to pick up. You can't let them get any momentum, any confidence at all in this game. You just need a ball control offense. You need to get that going, and then defensively, uh, just be in that new quarterback's face. If you're in his face, then good things can happen in that secondary. Maybe you get a timely interception that you'll need to seal the game out. It's all about maintaining that confidence level for this Illini team.
You're taking the words right out of my mouth. During that introduction, when the football team comes onto the field, you hope that stadium is rocking. I'm hoping, if Wisconsin has the ball, we're attacking their quarterback, making him nervous. And if we get a pick early in the game or a pick six early in that game, I think, the Memorial Stadium can be rocking. And that's just going to get their quarterback even more rattled. Luke Fickle, yeah, he's been a coach for a while, but this is not really his team yet. You want them in a position where they're uncomfortable. Make them uncomfortable, because the style of play that we have now is kind of like an anaconda snake. Like, we can just squeeze them to death, but we need that lead. We need to jump off to a lead very quickly, because I fear, if we go down 10, we go down 14 early in that game, a lot of us are going to be going, here we go again. The folks in Champaign, they don't necessarily stick around all game if our football team isn't performing, and all of a sudden halftime you're looking at a half-filled Memorial Stadium, and all the positive momentum we've been building up over the past 6 days is gone.
Exactly. I mean, that's the crazy part about college football is that momentum, it's easy to build, but yet it's so easy to get rid of. And Wisconsin is on that opposite end of that spectrum, like I said. And if Illinois attacks and is the more disciplined team, there's no reason in the world why Illinois can't win this game by 10 points or even 14 points, because that's just two possessions. If Illinois is able to score two more possessions than this new quarterback, then heck, that should be the way this game goes.
I'm getting kind of worried, Austin. We're actually sounding like what we've been basically having. We're repeating what we were saying like the first 4 or 5 weeks of the
Oh no.
season.
Oh
I'm
no.
getting flashbacks right now, and we saw what ended up happening. But again, that's exactly what we need to stop. Like, we need to maintain our game plan, maintain everything that we did on Saturday, carry it over to Champaign on this upcoming Saturday, and I mean, a double figure win would be surprising to me. I think no matter what at this point, it's going to be a one score game, one way or the other. But I think, as long as we attack that quarterback, they're all going, a little awry right now, crazy in Madison. I think we have a chance with coming out with the W and going into the bye week 4-4 with a chance to heal up. Get Randolph back, get LZ back. I'm not sure if he's playing on Saturday, and just have some positive vibes for 2 weeks. Because then I think we got Minnesota after that, and that's going to be another important game. But giving Brett Bielema 2 weeks to prepare for Minnesota, to me, is a huge advantage. He's never lost to them before, If we go into this game having won two in a row, that game against Minnesota could be key for the end of season Big Ten standings. And so that's what I want them to focus on. That's what I want them to be up for.
I mean, it's a 41 over under, which seems kind of high in a way
Yeah.
with a new quarterback for Wisconsin and just the way this Illinois offense has performed. But I think Illinois can score some points against this Wisconsin defense, especially in the way that Illinois could, like you said, anaconda grip this this offensive possession and offensive drives. Like if they're able to get Caden Fegan going, if they're able to find Isaiah Williams in the short passing game, I feel like there is enough dynamic plays. There's enough dynamic plays in this Illinois playbook to at least score against this Wisconsin team. Or we're not a one trick pony as an Illini offense. So if Illinois is able to use their two or three major weapons like Caden Fegan, Isaiah Williams, and I'll even throw Pat Bryant in there for maybe one or two plays, then hey, this Illinois offense shouldn't be scared of this Wisconsin defense at all.
And you forgot to mention Luke Altmaier's legs.
Yeah.
You know, it's something you don't want to count on to win, but the way he played on Saturday, that's what we want it for. As long as that running game is established, Luke, as long as the attention is elsewhere, he can go grab you a 15-yard, 25-yard run to extend a drive on third down. And if the defense is always looking for it, then it's no longer a weapon. But he's a quarterback who can win a game for us with his arm and his legs. And so we need to keep that threat there.
I mean, Luke Altmaier was the second leader in carries against in that win against Maryland, and who was the number one? Caden Fegan. If you're able to get maybe a read option even going, I feel like that could be very tricky for this Wisconsin defense. Are you going to try to send four guys at Luke Altmaier, knowing that the bowling ball of Caden Fegan is coming right down the middle? I don't think so. So you're going to have to keep it honest in the middle of the playing field, and that's going to open up things for Luke Altmaier as well.
So let me ask you a question. Who has the bigger attention right now? Who's under more pressure? Let's put it that way. Barry Lundy Jr. or Aaron Henry for this game on Saturday?
Um, I am gonna go with the surprising answer, Aaron Henry, just because it is a backup quarterback you're dealing with, a guy that has not had a start in his college football career. If he destroys you, kind of the way that Nebraska's quarterback destroyed you, then you're really starting to second guess what Aaron Henry can bring to this defense. It's almost unsurprising if Barry Lunny is inconsistent at this point. So I feel like Aaron Henry has all the pressure in the world to stop this Wisconsin offense in its tracks, a team that just scored 6 points last week. You can't let them explode for even 21 or 28 points. I feel like that would be a huge disappointment, especially with the talent that you have in Seth Coleman and Jerzon Newton. So I think it's got to be on Aaron Henry. Do you agree?
I, I'm going to go with Barry Lundy Jr., but your points are very sound. For me, I think we had such a nice, solid offensive game plan last week, and if all of a sudden we notice it revert back to what it's been the previous games this season, I think there's just going to be so much animosity, so much finger pointing. And that, again, what I mentioned earlier, the fans going, here we go again, just run the ball. Why did we stop running the ball? And, Barry, it's like, okay, Barry, I hope you enjoyed your 1 week vacation because now for 2 weeks, we're going to ask Brett every single week if there's any changes to be made on offense, over and over again. And so um, I like, as I mentioned earlier, like big picture wise, the improvements our defense is making under Henry. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I'm not as much focusing my ire in that direction. I hope, as you say, that we don't have a bad game where all of a sudden Wisconsin blows up for 40 points like Purdue did. But I think I'm satisfied enough with the way the defense has been progressing, whereas the offense, I'm still kind of holding my breath, and I'm going to wait to see Saturday. If in the second quarter, third quarter, are we still running the ball? Have we ditched our game plan? And if we do, if we're at the goal line, are we trying to be cute with it, or are we just giving it to our big bowling ball and letting him rush it in? So it's For me, I'm still more concerned about Barry Lundy Jr., and that's where I'm going to be focusing on this time around.
We will get to our predictions after we are done with the Wisconsin boys, but quickly, Michigan is kind of under some fire at the moment. Jim Harbaugh and his staff are accused of stealing signs. This is almost like a baseball controversy going on here in Ann Arbor. What are your thoughts on what has been reported about Jim Harbaugh and sign stealing?
I spent like 10 minutes researching this, like when it was all over Twitter and X, and I still don't really get what's going on. In my opinion, like I just think there's someone in the NCAA office who happens to be an Ohio State alum and a Chicago Bears fan. And so essentially he's trying to get Jim Harbaugh out of Ann Arbor immediately. And so the Bears hire him as our head coach next offseason because I mean, if they're just being super nitpicky with Michigan, it seems like. And it's like if you're worried about that, well, can I introduce you to the SEC? There's a lot far worse things going on down there. So, I mean, maybe you found something that I haven't seen, but what do you think?
I mean, Greg Schiano in a halftime interview with the Big Ten Network was like, "There's something going on. There's something going on here," and I don't. That's all I'll get to. That's all, kind of the gist of what he said. And if so, there's some teams that are reporting on this, that that could be just so damaging to Michigan whenever they finally slayed the dragon Ohio State 2 years in a row and are on the quest to maybe even being a better team than Georgia. I mean, that would be wild to think that all of this could just be destroyed within a couple of scandals between having COVID lunches and this sign stealing, which I think is a much bigger deal than the COVID lunches. But Jim Harbaugh was quoted in saying, "I do not have any knowledge or information regarding the University of Michigan football program illegally stealing signs, nor have I directed any staff member or others to participate in an off campus scouting assignment," Harbaugh said in a statement. So, yeah, I mean, he's denying right now, and we'll have to see where this investigation goes because I'm fascinated by this.
I'm fascinated too, but I want to see if it becomes a lingering distraction throughout the season. Because right now, as I've said before, I think Michigan, the way that they've been playing, is one of the best college football teams I've ever seen. Um, they haven't played much competition, but from what I've seen, like when you look at the analytics as well, like this team is right up there with the Georgias from the last couple of years. They're very good and they have an outstanding quarterback, and so no game has been close by the final buzzer. Like, does this linger? Does all of a sudden, this distraction become a little overwhelming because they've had their cake part of the schedule? The brunt is coming up. The Penn State, they have a stretch with I think it's Penn State, Maryland, and Ohio State to end the season. Coaches need to focus on football, and if this takes away, if the players all of a sudden get distracted, the players are having to answer questions about this. It's going to be tough because Michigan might be the best chance the Big Ten has to win a national championship. And if this is how that path goes awry, it's tough being a Michigan fan. Not that I care. I mean, I'm not crying any tears for them.
Yeah, Yahoo Sports reported today number two, Michigan allegedly had people attending games of future opponents, as well as possible college football playoff opponents, to gather information on signs used to call plays on offense and defense. I mean, come on. Like, we've seen how this story ends, if this is true, with Bill Belichick. I mean, you don't have to look that far to see that this is easily identifiable and easy to catch. So, if this is true, I mean, Jim Harbaugh has just got to be either the most brazen guy on the face of the earth who doesn't really care about the rules, or he is dumber than we think he is. I mean, those are the two options if this is ultimately true.
He might know he wants to be in the NFL next year. He's like, I don't care. Um, yeah, I have no. Again, which is why I'm having a hard time believing the story to be true. It's that blatantly obvious that you would just send guys there and the other teams are noticing. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving Jim Harbaugh a little bit too much credit, but he could just be sick of dealing with the NCAA, so he's just like he's kind of disregarding the rules at this point.
All right, let's get back to the Wisconsin Illinois game. We're going to be joined by the Big Banter Wisconsin guys, Jason Long and Coop, and we will join them now. Jason, Coop, how are you guys doing?
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, doing pretty good. Glad to join you here on a Thursday night.
Is Luke Fickle sending any guys to Champaign at the moment, stealing some signs, or?
Yeah, you heard of Jim Leonard? I don't know if you've heard of
Yeah.
him before. He's been it's been a long-term thing.
Oh wow, I didn't even think of that. The
Yeah.
inside spy
It's a
from
slow
the
it's a slow
Badgers
play.
site.
Like the Wisconsin offense, it's a slow moving thing. So
Luke Fickle's definitely in the mafia, so we got some things going for us. All right.
I'm
I'll be
submitting
looking.
this video to the NCAA, by the way.
legally binding, I think. Yeah.
With waste management.
Before we start, boys, can you let our audience know where they can find you? On social media.
Yeah. I'm my Twitter handle is at JasonC_long. All our articles are at badgernotes.com. Coop's got an awesome Twitter handle.
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter at Frozen Pizza Cooper, connoisseur of the frozen pizza market. And then badgernotes.com, doing best bets every week. And then the Badger Notes After Dark podcast with Jay and Dylan.
So let's begin with the backup quarterback for Wisconsin. The starter went out of the game last week against Iowa. What are your initial impressions of the backup for the Wisconsin Badgers?
I'm dead inside.
Yeah, it's funny. I watched your guys' podcast from earlier this week, and your guys' podcast and our podcast were night and day because you guys were very positive and optimistic, and we were just dead on our podcast. We're just dead inside. We're sad. Braden Locke does some good things. He's a decorated passer in high school. He threw for a lot of yards and a lot of touchdowns. He's not super mobile and obviously doesn't have a lot of game experience. So we're seeing it for the first time, just like everybody else, pretty much.
It's funny what you just said because I actually watched your After Dark episode this week. And I was telling Austin before we started recording that I watched the episode, and you guys look like what we look like after that Nebraska game.
That's what I have typed. I wrote, Sonny, I admired that you were still optimistic that you guys can find a route to the Big Ten championship because we can't get there right now in our heads. We don't believe it at all. We're defeated.
We're playing for draft picks.
It's funny because we're in your position, and it's funny how the season goes.
We've done the same thing because Austin, you said like you guys had 10-9 wins. You guys said you had them at 10 wins, and then at one point, Austin, you're like, I don't know if they're going to win another game this year. And like now for the Badgers, we're the same way. We're like,
I don't know how we score. I don't know how we
win the Big Ten West, no doubt. And then after the Iowa game, it's like we might not win another game. I don't know.
How fickle fandom is.
Yeah,
it's going to take a little bit. Yeah.
So what are the positives, I guess, of this Wisconsin team? Like, is there any right now, or what would you say that Badgers fans can hang their hat on right now?
I mean, the defense is only allowing like 17.8 points a game right now. So that's pretty good, especially the first few games of the season. Defense wasn't great. There was a lot of bend, not break, but giving up big plays and just not like the normal Wisconsin defenses we've seen. But you can't argue with giving up under 18 points a game. So they're playing pretty well right now. Other than that, I mean, Braylon Allen's cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, we still got that Braylon Allen guy, which means teams got to pick if they want to, stack the box. And if they do stack the box, hopefully that gives our young quarterback some better options.
If Illinois doesn't put 8 men in the box every play this week, I don't know what you guys are doing.
Yeah, that's what Austin and I were kind of talking about a game script that we thought how Illinois comes victorious. And for us, it's make the young kid beat us. Throw 7, 8 in the box. Don't let Braylon Allen, end up with 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Because then all of a sudden we're going to role reverse next week on our podcast again, and here we go. It's like, same old Illinois bottom feeder. Speaking of vibes, I'm confused. So actually, I'm just curious. We're about 10 months in, I think, from the Fickle hire. What are the vibes in Madison?
Not like they were.
Yeah.
That's just a tough way to lose. We lost to a punter, basically. I felt like I woke up the next day, should have been dead on a Sunday morning, dude. Just banging my head. It was not good.
I still like what Luke Fickle's
Yeah.
doing and what he brings to the table. He's got, like his first year at Cincinnati, they had a losing record, and then from there he went on a run. So I mean, it's year one. I think that loss makes us have to reevaluate. Like, we're still in a transition. It's going to take a little bit longer. And in 2023, everybody wants instant gratification.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be that way.
What did you think of the hire when they hired him?
Oh, home run.
Yeah.
I was sad for Jim Leonard, but I mean, you couldn't. There's not a lot of other coaches that would have been a better suited guy for the Badger job.
No, and I believe in Fickle. It's just one. I mean, every team, every fan can say this for a coach's first year. Doesn't have his guys yet. Still, we have some talented players, but a lot of them don't fit the offensive scheme and even defensive scheme, but especially the offensive line where the Badgers have dominated for the last, 20 years, it seems like. So that's something we're really struggling with. But no, I have confidence in Fickle that he'll get it done. It might just take longer than 1 year. Like Jay said, the instant gratification's gone. Like now, okay, we kind of fucking suck. Let's just see what we can do and try to improve.
Our honeymoon phase ended quick.
Yeah.
How has recruiting been for Luke Fickle so far?
I think they've been hitting that out of the park. I mean, kind of. They're recruiting skill players really, really well.
Yes.
I should say that. They got another, highly rated 4-star quarterback coming in next year. They've got some running backs coming in next year that are supposed to be, pretty good. They're having great senior high school years. But as far as that, like Coop said, that offensive line, defensive line guys that fit this scheme, I'm not sure we're doing that yet. So
No.
it's still, a lot to be desired, I feel like, in the recruiting game. But I think it's been better than years past because Paul Chris spent 0 time recruiting. So.
And to me, like, I don't know, it's weird because I love the NFL draft so much, and that's like such an unexact science. But like with recruits, you just don't know. I mean, these kids can be 5 stars in high school and come in and just not be able to play football. Like you have no clue. Do they have what it takes discipline wise? I mean, this is basically a full-time job now as an NCAA football player, and it's a huge jump from being you're the best player on the team probably to if you're not like a top 250 recruit, you're probably in the bottom 10% of talent on the team. And that can take some getting used to. And just like Jason said, the offensive defensive line, we're not getting the recruits we need, but you don't know until you get them in the building. Wisconsin's built a solid program on getting 3-star recruits and transfers for the last 10, 15 years. So you just don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Illinois is pretty much kind of in the same game plan. It is funny because, when the Fickle hire was made, people were talking about can his style and his style of offense, kind of transfer over to the Midwest and Madison. And it's funny, you just talk about how he's not necessarily recruiting the hogs that, Wisconsin, tends to have on both lines, and seeing if, that is really a staple of Madison, or if he's going to be able to transition that offense to more of a, offensive powerhouse, essentially, because, this year it's fine, but, as we all know, next year our schedules get a lot harder. And,
Yeah.
I was watching that the Washington Oregon game on TV, and I'm like, wait, hold up, we got to play these guys moving forward, because they look like they're playing a completely different sport. And so, when I was kind of thinking about that, it's like long term, the Wisconsin hire made even more sense to me, and it was one of those where I've always been very satisfied, very happy with Brett Bielema and the ground and pound of style, because it fits the Big Ten mold so well. But after watching that game, I was just starting to think about like all the different kinds of offensive systems that are about to enter the Big Ten. It's no longer regional conference. It's you're talking about 16 teams where almost half of them are going to be having their focus on, well, there's an air raid. It's at least more of a exciting offensive structure. It's going to be a different league next year. So I think Wisconsin at the very least has placed itself in a good position to transition to Big Ten 4.0 or whatever version we're at now.
Yeah, the conference is going to be rough next year, and to top it off, we play Alabama out of conference. So,
really wanted to challenge ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, 6-7 wins, I might be happy. I don't know. I'm just depressed.
I mean, not only you're getting Alabama, you're getting Nick Saban with a chip on his shoulder. After people are like, his program's dead. Best of luck.
My only saving grace right now is that Caleb Williams for sure goes pro, and Bo Nix goes pro or just doesn't come back somehow, and USC and Oregon just have dud quarterbacks, and then Wisconsin maybe gets a little bit of a break there, but I'm not too optimistic.
No.
Lincoln Riley tends to find himself.
Yeah, right.
He's pretty good at that,
Decent at scouting quarterbacks.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to go to LA. That would suck.
With those taxes? No way.
I'd go there with arms wide open. You kidding me?
There it is.
So you're looking at the rest of the Big Ten West. Where do you think this Wisconsin team finishes without Tanner Mordecai in this conference, in this division? Pardon me.
I still think second. I don't know. Weirdly.
Yeah, it's really weird because for how negative we are, we're also dumb fans.
Very stupid.
Like, I can still see them winning a decent amount of games and finishing second, like Coop said, but I also don't know that I would be surprised if they dropped a few games that they shouldn't lose or shouldn't lose. So I mean, you wouldn't surprise me either way right now if you told me they finished second, if you told me they finished fifth. So
yeah, as long as we beat Nebraska, I'm happy.
Yeah,
sore subject.
I'm
sorry, right. But I hate Nebraska as a state, as a football team, everything.
Yeah. I mean, that can be said for like all the teams in the Big Ten West, though. If you take a look at it, I know Iowa's obviously got the leg up on you guys at this point, but outstanding defense, of course, and outstanding punter. But you're talking about offense, 133 out of 133. Iowa's got
37 yards and won a game.
Yeah. They play Minnesota this week. They play Rutgers still. Those are games that they can lose.
Right.
And it's not like it's just the Big Ten West is just. I mean, historically it's bad, but it's not this bad. You look around and we're all god awful. Like there's no good team out there. So I joked around in our episode last week about Illinois all of a sudden just rejuvenating itself and Undertaker GIF awakening and winning the Big Ten West. But realistically, if you take a look, obviously this one in Iowa are going to be our two toughest games.
Yeah,
but it's not crazy to think about it because we were 14.5-point underdogs going into Maryland last Saturday. And, we went there and we came out with a win. If we can win at Maryland, there's no game left on our schedule that we can't win. And basically every locker room is telling themselves that.
Yes.
Minnesota's telling themselves that too. Like they've got a good defense. Yeah, their offense isn't that great, but neither's Iowa's.
Did you see the over-under for that game? 31.
Yeah, I saw it. I was like 31. I even saw some people hinting that it went down to 30.5, like right as we were starting to record, which would be the lowest ever.
Yes, I mean, I think if Wisconsin beats Illinois this week and then doesn't lose by like 30 to Ohio State, I'll be the same way. I'll be like, yeah, the West is ours because there's still a good chance that we can get there. That we have Northwestern, Indiana, and Minnesota after that. It's like,
right.
There's no reason we shouldn't win those games. But do you guys see that 2.5 spread and you think, oh, there's zero? Like, do you guys think Illinois wins this game Saturday?
Yeah, I think Illinois
Yes.
wins. I think it's gonna be 28-17 Illinois. I'll give away my prediction a little early. Um, I legitimately think that Illinois has the right offensive tools to win this if they're the more disciplined team, and defensively, load the box with 8 and
Yep.
have Jerzon Newton just eat.
Yup.
Uh,
Just
that's
a dog.
he is. I mean, he showed Alu in the Penn State game that he was like, "Why aren't I the number 4 pick in the draft?" Like, I mean, it was that impressive of a performance by Jerzon. So I think Illinois should win this game, and because they have the confidence too. I mean, they have the momentum on their side after that Maryland game. And I look at this and I think Wisconsin's down in the dumps right now. Like they are really licking their wounds.
Say it ain't
So
Oh,
so.
the entire state, man. The entire
yeah,
state.
6 feet
yeah.
on the edge, dude.
Add in the Brewers and add in the Packers, and my gosh, you guys are not in a good
Yeah, I mean,
way.
we don't historically play well in Champaign, I feel like. So got some I feel like Badgers have some bad memories there too. So
I mean, thank God for that Jonathan Taylor fumble. I mean, my goodness.
don't want to
And
talk about it.
wasn't with Austin wasn't with the game against Wisconsin, Devin Witherspoon's coming out party.
Yeah,
So basically, he was like an unknown freshman, 0-star freshman, and I forget who it was on your team who was basically running it into the touchdown to score a touchdown, and Witherspoon comes out of nowhere with a fingertip tackle, and all of us were kind of asking ourselves, who's that guy? Who's that guy? So, yeah, Wisconsin's one of the teams which we have had some success with over the last couple of years. Obviously, last year was
Yeah.
a big surprise. Your coach ended up being fired. I think it was the next day,
Yeah,
or
after
Yeah.
this game. Yep.
it's. I'm not as optimistic as Austin. I think we win, but I think it's going to be one of those, 21-17 or 19-13 type of games where I'm going to be sweating till the very end.
Won't even enjoy watching it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I do think we end up winning the game. I mean, I saw your episode, so I know what you guys think. Have you guys changed your mind on the predictions for the game?
No, I actually placed a recreational wager on Illinois money line plus 110.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like this is an entirely pro Illinois podcast now that we jumped on because we are the Badger Notes After Dark. But yeah, I just don't know what Braden Locke is, and like putting the ball in the hands of a redshirt freshman that's played 55 total snaps in college football on the road. Like I don't know. Like they got nothing to lose. That's like the only positive I could come up with. That the Badgers don't have much to lose right now by just like going and giving them hell. But I don't know. I'm on Illinois.
I'm just a broken man, and give me.
And Austin will tell you, I actually do that. I call them happiness hedges.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I said that too.
Every single week.
My happiness the rest of the year.
Yeah. Nebraska game won me a lot of money because I when the line officially came out, they were like plus 160, and I was like, I got to jump all over this. And so, I mean, I can't be fully sad because it's miserable enough being an Illinois football fan.
we are getting closer to tip off for basketball season. What are your guys' Wisconsin Badger basketball thoughts?
So excited, and I'm ready to be heard again.
We actually stopped our podcast. We all literally said we should turn this into just a basketball podcast because we're already tired of the football team.
That's been the Illinois mantra for years upon years of every Illinois media being like, all right, we lost their third game. Time for basketball. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the basketball season. They return all 5 starters and they got some young pieces that, at least in the red-white scrimmage, some of them look pretty good. Yeah. So it's exciting. I think it's similar. They just didn't get a new coach, but it's similar to the football team where they just got a lot to look forward to. So we'll see come tip off.
What's the expectation level?
I hope they finish top 4 in the conference again.
Yeah. Would love
tournament team then?
Okay.
Get back to the NCAA tournament would be a goal, and then as long as they don't get bounced in the first round like Purdue probably will, we're fine.
Yeah, we're still looking for our Sweet 16, but
we can't laugh too much. We can't laugh too much. Yeah.
Jason, Coop, I want to thank you guys for joining us. And one more time, where can Illini fans find you guys after the Illini win?
Yeah, on Twitter you can find me at JasonC_long. I'll be having the emo tweets. Feel free to like, follow, and troll me all you want.
Yeah, and you can find me on Twitter at Frozen Pizza Cooper. If you come in one of our mentions, I will attack you. I will go to war. My Twitter fingers are always ready. I have nothing to lose. Like I said, I'm a broken man. I've created my own prison. Other than that, I'm just a guy with an internet connection. So thanks for having us on, guys. Enjoyed it.
Hold on, one more.
I did want to mention I'm looking at FanDuel right now, and it's 30.5 on FanDuel.
30.5?
That line. Yeah, it's 30.5 now. So again, that would break a record if that's what it kicks off at. So
I might take the under, empty the clip.
I took it at 32.5. I want to be a part of history, so I'd be a fool not to. But
one more for you, Coop. What's your favorite frozen pizza? I gotta ask.
Bellatoria artesian crust sausage and pepperoni.
All right, I'll be getting it.
I gotta jot that one down.
It's quite good. $6.99 Woodman's.
Okay. Thank you guys one more time. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Yeah,
guys.
I enjoyed it, guys. Thanks for having us on.
And that has been this episode of Illinicast. I want to thank Jason Long and Frozen Pizza Coop for joining us. This is part of the Big Banter Podcast Network. I already gave my prediction, Sonny. What is your prediction for this game?
Kind of hinted at it too. I'm going to say 19-13 Illini, but it could absolutely be 19-13 Badgers on Monday. We'll see. But I think we come out with the win, and I think it's going to be super important for us to come out with that win and, get those positive vibes going into the bye week.
Yes, I mean, this is the crucial part of the schedule. I mean, we've said that multiple times throughout this year, but I feel like now that the bounce back has been established with Maryland, now it's time to continue it on, and I think Illinois will this Saturday. So I'm excited, and then we'll take down Minnesota like Brett Bielema always does. And then we're back. We're back, baby.
We're back.
Indianapolis.
Did you book your hotel yet or not yet?
I have it in pencil at least. Like,
are you in Indiana right now? Just walk across the street.
I'm in New Albany, Indiana, which is very close to Louisville. So I'll just wave to Sky Clark and say hi. But yeah, I'll be in Indianapolis shortly. So I'll just book in person.
Sounds good.
Well, Sonny, it was a great episode. We talked a little bit about Michigan. We talked a lot about Illinois versus Wisconsin. And Sonny, we'll talk to you again soon.
I
This has been the Illinicast, powered by the Big Banter Podcast Network.